Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Video Ferox, where we kick off a brand new theme month. What's the theme, you ask? Well, we are going to be paying long overdue tribute to the undisputed king of the B movies, Roger Corman. Now, we could do the low-hanging fruit, where we review movies that he just produced. But that would be far too easy. Oh, no, my friends. Today, we are going to be reviewing movies that he personally directed. Movies like X, the man with X-ray eyes. So grab your popcorn, settle back, and let's roll the trailer.
August 14th, notes on experiment, designated X. Experimental subject, myself, James Xavier.
X, the most fantastic experiment you have ever taken part in, presents Ray Milland in his most challenging role since his Academy Award-winning Lost Weekend. X, the man with the X-ray eyes.
Are you all right? It's like a splitting of the world. More light than I've ever seen. Filled with light.
X, the man with the X-ray eyes, tries to help the most desperate in our society and enjoys all the delights of secretly studying sexology.
Headache?
No, it's just my eyes.
A doctor with the power to see what others cannot believe. He can overcome the unknown, save lives, and invade the glamour gambling casinos of Las Vegas and defy the goddess of chance.
Don't draw. Don't draw. The next card's a face card.
And Harry, you better go for the sheriff right now. Push up your sleeve.
No!
Alrighty, kids, welcome back from the trailer to X, the man with X-ray eyes. So, Ashley, did you like X, the man with X-ray eyes?
Oh yeah, it's pretty solid. It's smack in the middle of the Poe cycle, so he'd done a couple before.
Oh yeah, he's well and truly established by this point as a director.
Yeah, and he has his familiar touches, a lot of schlock. He has the close-up of the eyeball at the beginning, kind of freeze frame with the music over it, so you get to soak in what you're about to, be bombarded with, and then does the hypno wheel graphic, which really sells the beginning.
The movie starts a little bit slow for me, or a lot bit slow if you pay attention to the cut prologue, but we'll get into that in a second. But once the eye drops happen and we get past the exposition dump at the very beginning, the movie kind of takes off and really keeps going and holds your interest. It's a very compelling flick.
I mean, you've got Ray Milland, so you've got this really great setup with these veteran actors who are given it their traditional, their accustomed style, and it serves the movie. It doesn't come off as too popcornish because of the caliber of the actors they have in the movie.
And the movie is really short, too. It's like an hour and 19, so it really gets in, delivers the payload, and gets the fuck out. It doesn't overstay its welcome. So it's a nice, tight script. It's got a great cast. It's well shot. It's got great music. So, yeah, you'd give it the thumbs up, you'd say?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it has some good special effects in it, and it has one of my favorite things from the movies of that period, car chases with really big land yachts.
All right, so you liked it. I really thought this was a strong flick. Definitely one of Roger's better directed movies. Mm-hmm. So, all right, should we just go on to the spoilers, Sid?
Sure.
All right, on to the spoilers.
Woo!
So depending on what cut of the movie you see, and depending on which version of the disc you have, there's a 5-minute prologue where it's this talking about the senses, and it's talking about the sight and the sound and the smells and taste and touch and all that other stuff. And it is common knowledge that you really want to grab your audience right out of the gate with a really strong opening. And I think going on about senses for 5 minutes of this narrator just droning on, I think is a really weak start.
That has a cheap opening. But what do you expect from, one of the kings of the cheapies?
Once the movie gets going, we follow along with Dr. James Xavier, which is 50% of where the X, the man with X-ray eyes, comes from.
So Dr. Xavier, he's messing around with the idea that humans only use less than 10% of the wavelength available from light in the universe in general. And he wants to open that up so humans can have the remaining 90+%. And so he's begun experimenting with the serum he's developed. But he hasn't used it on a person yet. He's about to test it, but he needs a subject, so he's got a monkey.
Did you notice with the monkey and later on through the movie, the theme of red in the movie? There was a lot of red in this movie. Mm-hmm. And red, of course, being this indicator of danger and heightened awareness and anxiety and that sort of thing. So when the doctor, he puts the eye drops in the monkey and then puts the monkey in the cage and he brings over his girlfriend, and it's like, oh, hey, check this out. The monkey will now be able to see through these 3 cardboard cards that he has prepared. And it's like white, red, and blue. And he puts him in the cage and he slides it open, and the monkey goes over and flips a switch, and he flips a switch for white. And then he starts seeing, and the drug starts taking effect, and he sees blue, and so he goes over and flips a switch for blue, and the little light bulb turns blue. And then he goes over and the drug really takes hold, and he sees red, and he goes over and flips a switch for red, and then dies. So pay attention to the red, because it pays out throughout this entire movie.
Mm-hmm. And he's talked about it with his friend, another doctor, Dr. Sam Brandt. And Sam thinks that it's a fallacy because the human sensorium is open only so far for a reason, but Dr. Xavier wants to go further. And the other doctor, Diane, she's from the money people, and she needs to know that whatever's going on here is going to be capable of changing things in a positive manner so she can get funding. And Sam goes to the board of directors at the hospital to try and score money for this, because he's seen the experiment, he's seen that things are working, and so they have to convince the other doctors that this is going to work on the human sensorium, but also not maim people.
He just needs more time. I just need more time. Give me more time. Buy me time.
And he's experimenting on himself. His eyes are changing color slightly, and he can see things, but at one point, his eyes open up all the way, and he sees too much bright, and it almost blinds him.
I liked when he first took the drug, when Ray Milland first took the drug. And he gets Dr. Sam in there to administer the drops. And Dr. Sam comes over with the dropper, and it's like, where do you want me to put the drop, left or right? And it's like, and he just kind of throws up his hands and put it in the middle. Nobody in 1963 is going to get the middle chakra eye, the all-seeing eye. So this script is really fucking clever.
This movie is actually full of a lot of double entendre, a lot of good jokes and stuff. And I mean, it really ups the ante, I think, on a lot of what was going on in pseudoscience and in the kind of gonzo type of gray area, the paranoid ramblings of people who are trying to open up the doors of perception or various different things. A lot of the pamphlets that were being put out at the time about not trusting the government, this kind of falls into that whole secret area of what are the doctors actually doing? What are people actually up to?
It's kind of in between that red menace of the 1950s and that kind of pseudoscience pyramid power, sharpen your razor blades by putting under a pyramid of the 1970s. So it's kind of in this weird gray area.
Yeah, it falls into several different areas. I mean, science fiction, horror, and then psychodrama. There's a lot of the romance between James and Diane that starts off with them kind of being friendly, and then they go on a date. Right before the doctor is about to prove his thesis, Diane says, let's go out. So they go to dance at somebody's house, and there's all these people dancing around doing all this shit, and his eyes, he puts the drops in, and almost immediately, X-rated vision.
Although, interestingly enough, we don't get any actual nudity. It's all this kind of 1963 chase, so the women are dancing from the back, and you only see from their knees down and their feet and stuff. It's not, when you say Roger Corman and nudity, you think titties, 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 titties. No, we don't get none of that here.
And the doctor doesn't even really look to do anything tawdry. It's more that this works. And I wonder how much farther I can see. Can I see through their body? He wants to see how well the drops work, but every time he takes another drop, he sees more stuff. So it's not just clothing disappearing eventually, it's just everything is like glass.
Yeah, he starts seeing through skin and like through buildings. And as these sort of things go, and as the mad scientist unveils his project and starts using it on them, and as the madness starts setting in, because that's what happens in a 1963 mad scientist movie, is that this shit starts taking over your brain, he starts having a breakdown and seeing more and more and more.
His experiment does work exactly the way he needed it to. He wants to give a gift to humanity, so if you have a disease, you can see it. You can see through the bones, you can see into the bloodstream and whatever. So he takes over an operation by one of the other senior doctors who is like, are you out of your effing mind? And James just shoves him aside and essentially stabs him in the hand to stop him from operating.
Yeah, he's about to cut open this girl and her heart, and he thinks that the heart valve is flawed or something like that. And of course, Dr. X, he can see through the body and says, wait a second, no, don't do the heart valve. Cut over here because that will save her life and this will kill her. And the doctor's like, dude, I'm the attending physician. You're just the helper. You fuck off. I'm going to do it the way he says. And so he grabs his hand and slices his hand.
And he takes over and does the operation properly and then stitches her up. And he knows he's about to face the board because he's just committed an ethics violation despite being right. And he knew it.
Oh, that pisses me off so much. It's like, dude, the bitch doctor, he's like, I'm going to see you hang. You're going to lose your license and you're going to be sued for malpractice. I'm like, dude, he was fucking right. You would have killed her.
He's going completely on ego and embarrassment of being proved wrong in front of a room full of doctors working on this kid.
Well, that was one of the other themes that runs through the movie. There's plenty of themes in this movie. And one of them was ego supplanting science, where I know best. And this is playing out with Dr. X.
They're probably more afraid of what Dr. X is doing with the X-ray drops because, I mean, if he's doing this, what else is he capable of doing? And they build a case basically to have him disciplined, and he gets into a begging match with Sam. And he's like, just help me here. I don't want to lose my license, but at the same time, I need to continue doing this.
And Dr. Sam, of course, is like, dude, this is really messing up your brain. You need to stop the drugs. You need to stop this experiment now.
And he freaks out and hits Sam and accidentally knocks him through the window on the 4th floor of the hospital, where he goes crashing to his death in the street below. So Diane says, oh hell no, you just killed Sam. You gotta go now before they grab you. So the cops have come within a matter of seconds, and James runs. He goes on the run, and within probably a matter of days gets a job on the docks, on the pier front at a carny.
I would love to see the carnival where we get to see Don Rickles, the other big name of the movie that you're going to recognize. Oh, wait, no, that's not true, because with Don Rickles being the Sideshow Barker, we also get Dick Miller. So the other name You're going to know from the movie.
Oh, yeah, Dick Miller and a friend come in, and they're basically a couple of drunk kids, in their late 20s or whatever, and they think this whole thing is a sham. And basically, James is being played up as the psychic who can read everybody's mind. And Rickles who plays just the sleazy, character. I mean, he's got the hat and everything, the cracker hat, all that shit.
I only know Don Rickles from like his insult comic stand-up stuff. And I suppose Toy Story. All right, fine, whatever. But generally, I don't really know him. And here, he was like, holy crap, you're actually a really good actor. Okay, yes, you're sleazy, but you're manipulative, and he's also kind of got charm because he's insulting the audience because Dick Miller's like, oh, this guy is a fake. And it's like, man, your mama's a fake.
So he comes on as this Barker, and he doesn't really believe that Dr. Xavier can see the things he does. He thinks it's a trick, but he doesn't want to let the audience know that because, I mean, he's a carnival Barker. He's doing his job.
And I think that Ray Milland and Don Rickles, they had great chemistry together. They really played off each other well. It's really a pleasure to see.
It's great to see two pros who know their craft. I mean, Ray Milland is more known for the action roles and maybe like the Private Dick or a romance or something like that. And Don Rickles is this seasoned comedian who came up the usual way, a lot of stand-up and whatnot, trying out a hard room. And so they're both in their element. And they know how to bam, 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 just shotgun it off. And that holds your attention for the entire time because you're thinking, this guy is a real sleazebag, but he's got a great idea. And if you're going to make money so that you can perpetuate your lifestyle without the cops finding you, you need to do it under the radar. And so work with this guy. Just don't let him take you to the cleaners.
And we get the red theme back again because after the show and Dr. X, he goes back into his dressing room and he's having this breakdown because he's still giving himself the drugs and the drugs are still affecting his brain. And Don Rickles comes in and is like, hey man, we can turn this into a real moneymaker for us. Let's big this up. And Ray Milland's like, get the fuck out of here, man. And so as he's having this mental breakdown, you watch the background. You see the door right behind him, and it's like painted red, the frame, but it's like dripping red, and like you pan over to the window, and Don Rickles is looking in the window trying to figure out what Dr. X is doing, and the frame is outlined to red, and it's kind of this really weird, surreal kind of a visual representation of Dr. X's mental breakdown.
James gets set up in this back room in this apartment so that he can work on a crowd. And so the Barker goes out and gets all these people to come into the room because clearly he realizes this guy has a true power. It's not a scam or a scheme. He's actually got something. So he wants people to come in here and wants James to read him.
And basically he finds sick people and brings them into this basement, this dingy basement, and has Dr. X look at him and says, oh, you've got lung cancer, or hey, your kidneys are failing, or whatever, his medical science plus x-ray vision equals money for him. Oh, but wait, no, I misspoke. The Barker is in fact very explicit on saying, no. We're not going to make them pay a dime. They're going to generously give to us. And so he starts playing this con with the sick people and Professor X. And that's when Diane comes back into the mix.
Yeah, she works her way in. She finds out where he's been. She's been looking all over for him, all over town. And she realizes that he's gone underground because that's the only safe place for a well-known doctor to go who's not going to be found out. So she gets in there and she visits with James and they kind of get into a little verbal sparring about what he's doing and that he needs to remain on the down low. He can't go back to prison.
Well, she straight up tells him, it's like, dude, this guy's playing you. Get the fuck out of here. And they say, okay, hey, Carnival Barker, we're done. Hasta la vista. And of course, he doesn't take that well. And he's like, well, yeah, you're going to go on the run. Well, I know all the dirty secrets about you. I'll just dine you out to the cops.
So Diane and James are arguing about James's future because he can't obviously work by the light of day doing the stuff he does. So they get the idea to head to Vegas and go to a casino. And they show the typical drive-bys of various card-counting places.
It's going through this downtown Vegas, and you're seeing through buildings. And Roger Corman was actually really smart about this. He found buildings that were under construction, and then put this weird filter on and shot the building as they were driving past. So it looks like you're seeing through the building. It's a really clever way to do it.
James describes everything as he goes along, describing things as like buildings being held up by nothing, seeing places where there are no walls. I mean, it's very apt descriptions of the stuff. It's very well done.
And then you get down to the Vegas Strip, and it's all this neon, and the Happy Texan, and the giant signs, and it's all seen through this red filter. So here's the world as Dr. X's vision is expanding. The world is closing in on him because he's just going mad.
They go to this casino, and he says, okay, here's some money. I'm going to go over this way to the blackjack table. And so, they're playing a game of 21. And he's just card counting, looking, and he starts winning. And it's all, at first, the dealer doesn't notice anything until he starts winning again. Then again. Then they move to another table because the security kind of is watching at the perimeter. You're like, what's up with this guy?
And then he absolutely blows it because he could have kept on winning because there's no way they could have proved that he was counting cards or anything like that. But he starts saying to the other players, like, no, stand, because the dealer has a face card or whatever. The dealer's going to win this hand. And so they like, hey, okay, we're going to pay you out. But then the security guys take him into the back room or try to. And that's where he throws up all his winnings and says, free money, and then runs the fuck out. And that's where you get the car chase that you so lovingly desire after.
Yes, he grabs a land yacht and just takes off. Hey, that's my car! And it's on from that point. So he gets out of town, but the problem is his vision is getting worse and worse. Even though he can see more stuff, it's starting to get blurry, and it flares out and everything, and he's being chased by the cops and a copter, a cop copter.
So this movie is not a special effects heavy movie. I mean, aside from the percepto vision that you get when you're seeing from his point of view. But the makeup effects that they did for his eyes, it starts out with this black iris and then like the gold pupils. Yes. And then as he gets closer and closer to the end of the movie, it goes all black. And it's really creepy and really disturbing. And Ray Milland is sinister as fuck in this thing. And he sells the hell out of those contacts.
He starts swerving all over the road, can't control it. He can't see where the hell he's going. He's barely making it by the outline of the road, nearly wipes out like 5 times.
Because at this point, he is now seeing through time and space. His vision is so acute.
And then eventually he wrecks against a guardrail and the car gets totaled and he has to get out and makes his way down this embankment towards this open area with a church.
I love Roger's frugality, where the car wreck, we'll say, is just him spinning the camera or spinning something in front of the camera so it looks like it's tumbling, and the car doesn't have white walls. It's a different model. It's a different shade. It's just a junker that he found somewhere and rolled over and said, that's our car wreck. God bless you, Roger.
Oh, king of the cheapies. You got Roger rolled. Oh, yeah. So he goes into this church, and this preacher is preaching up a storm about repentance and quoting scripture, as they all do. And James comes staggering in. And Diane is, imminent. She's on his tail. The cops are, coming. And so he stands there and just he's swaying as the preacher is doing, and the congregation is saying stuff back to him. It's just back and forth and back and forth. And eventually Diane comes, running in with the cops. And at the last second, they're talking about smiting the eye or whatever. You can hear the congregation going when he reaches up and his head goes out of frame and comes back up and his eyes are missing and it's all red inside.
So I want to talk about Ray Milland for a little bit because he is really, really fucking good in this. And I haven't seen a lot of his stuff, but like the scenes where after he starts administering the drops to his eyes and they've got him bandaged up because the shock from the light. And he's all, it's this conversation back and forth between Sam and Diane and X, and it's all from X's point of view. And they're standing there perfectly normal and just kind of having a talk. And then they cut to the other way around, and you see his face all bandaged up. And he's all like, but the bandages will be coming off sometime in a couple of hours. And he's like, oh yes, the bandages. hardly an inconvenience. And I'm like, the way he delivers that line is just so sinister, and kind of you can see the first steps of his descent into madness from there. He is so fucking good in this.
Well,
thing.
the first thing I ever saw him in was Battlestar Galactica, the lead.
Oh yeah, it was
the
like
Council of 12.
yeah, he was Count Iblis, wasn't he?
Well, no, he was the lead of the Council of 12 colonies at the beginning before they got wiped out by the Cylon. That was the first time I'd seen him. The second time I saw him was the two-headed monster of the man with the two-headed.
Oh yeah, the thing with two heads with Rosie Greer. Yeah, Rosie Greer, which we'll probably get to eventually someday on Blaxploitation History Month. So okay, so I have seen 3 things that he's been in. So above and beyond the omnipresent red throughout the movie, there's other themes like, well, the obvious drug addiction theme. I'm a scientist, I'm questing for knowledge, I'm really thirsty for knowledge, but then he starts getting a little more and he likes that taste and he needs a little bit more of the taste.
Put the spike in. Yeah, that's too bad because he starts off really, really, really in control of what he's doing, but then he finds himself in the grip of addiction and needs more and more and more. I can see more, but it's cumulative. I can see more each time, but he knows it's destroying him, that it's destroying his vision, but he can't stop taking it because of what it means that when he finally reaches that, Godhead where he can see everything.
So I think that's pretty much the comprehensive look at X, the man with X-ray eyes. So shall we just go to your final thought then there, Ashley?
Yeah. It's expertly mounted, but I do think the opening bit with the eyeball freeze frame could have been cut down by about, 10 seconds.
Yeah, but if you start trimming a little bit here and a little bit there, because if I was editing the thing, I probably would have done something differently with the exposition dump at the beginning. But the problem is if you start cutting here and you start cutting there, all of a sudden your hour 16 turns into now we're under an hour. I don't have runtime for a feature film, so now we have to put the prologue back in, and that kills the opening.
Some of the stuff in there is obviously pure cinematic gold, so, you got to mine that shit when you can.
All right, well, I guess we'll just catch you next week. X gonna give it to you!
Theaters would like to thank WPLJ 95.5 FM for providing the music during this intermission. Come inside for all your favorite music and motion picture entertainment, and look for special discounts at midnight where your WPLJ FM card will bring you great savings at your United Artists Theater.
Can you still see? Can you see me now? Right. Well, whatever, man. Next week, me and Brad, we're going to be taking a look at Roger's World War II movie. That's right, he did one of those too. He did The Secret Invasion, so come back here and join us for that. In the meantime, I want you to drop an email, thevideonastyproject@gmail.com, and until you come back for more popcorn and more Roger Corman, I want you to stay evil.
You like the way I dance?
No, it's fine. It's just fine.